The mode of baptism. Is it by sprinkling or by immersion in water? And again we go back to the Bible. Now the original word for baptism in Greek is baptismo. And all the Greek scholars agree that either the primary or the secondary meaning of the word baptismo is immersion. Either the primary or the secondary meaning. So we can safely conclude that baptism means immersion baptism. And secondly, if we read about the baptism of the Lord Jesus Christ in Matthew and Luke's Gospel, we see that he came from Nazareth, his hometown, to the river Jordan to get baptized. Now, who baptized him? His relative John the Baptist. Now, the approximate distance between Nazareth and river Jordan is about 30 kilometers also. Now, you just think, suppose sprinkling was the accepted mode of baptism. Was there any need for Jesus Christ and John to come all the way from Nazareth to the river Jordan to get a sprinkling baptism? Naturally, there was no need for them. So we can safely conclude that, and it is very clearly told that Jesus came up out of the water, meaning that it would have been immersion baptism only and not sprinkling baptism. And in John chapter 3 verse 22, we read that John baptized in a place called Ainon. And the only thing special about Ainon was there was plenty of water there. That's all. So if it is sprinkling baptism, there is no need to go to all the way to Ainon. You can as well probably have it in your own house and sprinkle yourself and do the baptism. And when we come to the eunuch's baptism, that is probably the most important example we can see, Acts chapter 8 verses 35 to 39, where we see that the eunuch was going back from Jerusalem to his native place Ethiopia, and Philip the evangelist shared the gospel news with him. They were traveling in a chariot, and being a very important minister of the cabinet of the Queen of Ethiopia, you can safely imagine that there would have been enough water for sprinkling in that chariot or in the other chariots which is accompanying him. Now, in spite of the water being available in the chariot, we read that they were traveling on the road to Gaza, the desert road, and as soon as an oasis was found by the eunuch, he almost shouted in happiness that there is water. Can't I take baptism? What does it mean? You can imagine somebody, you are traveling on a highway, and if you have to take an immersion baptism, you know the practical difficulties which are involved in taking an immersion baptism while traveling from one place to another. In spite of the obvious problems and in spite of the ease of the sprinkling baptism in the chariot itself, they waited for water to be found, and he was given baptism in that, most probably in that oasis, and again he came up out of the water. That is what we read in the Bible. And finally, about the baptism is that it depicts the death, burial and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, nobody buries a body by sprinkling earth on it. We know that the earth is buried under the earth. And this can be read from Romans 6:4 and